And what is up, party people? Technicals here, Technicals Tinkers. We're back with 3D print operations. Machines are silent, except for this one. It just finished up. I actually just stopped it. This is a prototype of a bullet. I think I mentioned that in yesterday's micro vlog. Doing all these big gun models, so I figured I'd do a bullet. This is a 45 ACP, just the body. But as you can tell, it screwed up, so let's go take a look at it. So the bottom came out okay, little wacky here, no supports. I didn't want any supports on this. And it was fine until it got up to about, I'd say about the 400 millimeter mark. And it wanted a filament change, and that's when I did the filament change, and I'm not sure why, but maybe I jostled it a little too much. But then as it got up here, really bad, and I think it was because the cable chain, the spine, got caught underneath the top of the gantry. And then I was like, all right, well, I'll just let it run. And then finally up here at the top, I caught it. It layer shifted again. And so I put out a video about the Cobra II Max layer shifting, my solution for it, which was to rotate your model, that it's less to do with the machine and more to do with the model itself as it's printing, because the vibration compensation, the resonance check can't account for how the machine's going to react when it's printing at the very top and closer to that 500 millimeter mark. It just can't take it into consideration, because this is a lot of weight. Even though it's, hollow, it's a lot of weight to be slinging back and forth, and it can't account for that. And so I think that's really what it is. Like this, obviously I can't rotate this model, it's round. Even though it was going slower, I think it's not something that you can really fit. That, in my opinion, it's not something that can be fixed, other than just to dial your speed way down. And if you're trying to print at like 40 millimeters a second, then why do you have a Cobra II Max? So that's a bummer. But what I'm gonna do is as a prototype, I'm probably gonna go ahead and paint it, because I wanted to do a two-parter where I could just print it in that color. But this would be so easy to paint in brass. We'll see. I still probably would charge too much for it, but still, it's a pretty big bullet. You still get the idea. I don't like how there's no clever way for me to, I guess I could split the model. I could split it right here at this top, and then just start the print from here up, and that way I could print the bottom section upside down with a hole for the primer and the text that runs around the edge. Yeah, that might be a great idea. I might do that. I'll probably start with a smaller version of it so I don't burn the half a spool of filament that I burned on this thing. So that's my experience though with this whole 3D print thing. It's just a lot of prototyping, and I'm sure that there are dudes out there that run this that get it really, really precise in the design first before they go into prototyping, and it saves them a ton of filament. But the filament's cheap, even though I burned through a shitload of it. But 10 rolls or 10 kilos is $100. In the business sense of things, that's not a lot of money. That's just really not a lot of money. If you're doing it really, really small at home, like I get it, but it's kind of, I guess I'm looking at it through the lens of a larger sort of business, and I'm just trying to do what I can to get there quick. And not to remark too much on the M3 is 3D. I watch him quite a bit. I don't know. My wife and I eat dinner watching his videos. We're enamored with him. But I mean, he's a very small channel, doesn't get a lot of views, and about 10% of his videos have to do with 3D printing. But we're just kind of, enchanted by what is this guy even doing? But he highlights his 3D printing operation, and he spends a lot of time recycling. And I commented in one of his videos, is it even worth recycling? Because everything I've ever seen says don't recycle. Just not worth the time, not worth the money. Even if you're buying and making virgin filament from virgin pellets, you still got to buy the pellets at what, $5, $6 a kilo, and you got to run it through those machines and get it. And so you're saving, at scale. At big scale, yeah, it might be significant, but not at his scale. Not at anyone's scale that's in less than a 20,000 square foot facility. It's just not worth the time. And that's kind of the point I was driving to, is in business you got to really think about your time and how much your time is worth, because every time you touch something, every time you touch it, it gets more expensive. And that's kind of a mantra I've been beaten on in my main business a lot, you know, because like we go through and reorganize something, or put something on sale and it doesn't sell, so we take it and we put it back. Every time you touch something, it gets more expensive because labor costs, that's your biggest expense is labor. So every time you touch it, it gets more expensive, and eventually to the point to where you are not going to recoup your losses or your costs on that widget or whatever you're selling. So, you could say, this could cost you $1 to make, but if you touch it 100 times, now it costs $100. And if you sell it for $10, you're better off throwing it in the garbage, or, just marking it down so low to where it sells immediately, because, you're going to have to touch it again when you sell it. And that's just something I kind of live by, is people don't really take into consideration their time, because they think, oh, time is infinite. I have all the time in the world, what's the big deal? I'm just, it takes a little extra time. That's why I don't want to paint things or glue things or do any additional processing with these prints, is because of that time. You have to keep that in mind, that as you grow into the future, your time is going to be a big bottleneck. You got to set it up from the beginning to where you don't have to touch things. And I understand this is a creative person's realm. A lot of creative people floating around in this realm, and they don't like, it's just a fundamental disagreement, I guess, that they don't like to hear that. They think that it's about the art and the passion and all that kind of stuff. No, about the money, baby. Also, another Karinka print. This is the only part of the model I can show, but it came out pretty good. 18 hours on the Bambu P1P. Still some support stuff to tear off, because she's got these braids here, lots of nooks and crannies for things to fall in. But I printed this one flat like so, just to prevent excess flushing on the model. But it came out pretty good. I really like this Bambu matte PLA. Some terracing on top, but I did it at 0.2 millimeter layer height. Painting was real easy. It's really no hand painting. It just automatically does the fill in Bambu Studio. This came out pretty good. Big model too. I mean, you can tell, hand for scale. This will be a big model. Eventually she ends up inside like a box. She's in like a box, like restrained in a box. That's the model. So I printed the box all in black, and then I got to print her body, and her body's set to take like 20 hours, but it's mostly this beige skin color, aside from like nipple clamps and stuff like that that's on the model. But pretty cool nonetheless. Anyway, came out pretty good. Really like the golden and yellow hair. Really kind of bright and pops and fresh. And, I was going for like a blonde thing here, but, you can't really embody blonde. It has to be like contrasting colors in these character models. It has to, really pop. Came out pretty good. I enjoy it. So that's the skinny with the 3D print vlog for today. Had a couple orders go out yesterday. A guy messaging me about orders today, asking if I can make a shroud for his custom crypto miner thing. I think I'm just gonna have to tell him I can't do it, because he's using like some kind of industrial fan to blow into his miners, and he's sending me pictures of the size of it, as if it's this far away, using a tape measure. Like, I need more precision than that, because I don't want to design it, send it to him, it doesn't fit, and then he's like, it doesn't fit, I need to do it again. And then it's just like, again, the more times you have to touch something, the more expensive it gets. And he only needed 3 of them, so realistically I can't charge him more than like 25 bucks per. And so that back and forth, that shipping cost, it's just not going to be worth it. I got to do things that I can scale, because this is a business where machines are making the product. Let the machines make the product, and you just kind of sit back and press play on the machines. Anyway, that's my rip. Let me know what you guys want to see in the comments below. If you want to know more about my other business or anything like that, press like, because it's a nice thing to do. I'm The Technicals. See you next time.